Well, the first week of 2023 is in the books. Woo! I don't know about you, but 2022 was a doozy. 2023. Woo! Making you feel old. Just, oh, dang. Not even that old, but man, 2023 makes me sound like it. As we step into this next season of 2023, it's kind of a thing people do, is they make a New Year's resolution. Do we have any people who made a New Year's resolution this year? Show of hands. Anyone? We got a few. Okay, awesome. You know, I have like mixed emotions with New Year's resolutions. Right, just kind of mixed emotions. Okay, because this is the way I see it. Look, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not judging anybody, so if you feel judged, I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Prove me wrong. I don't know. And so when we make New Year's resolutions, ultimately what I think is we are setting ourselves up to make New Year's excuses. Because I don't know about all of you, but it's really hard to stick to anything for a complete year. So just as dedicated and determined as we are when we set out to better ourselves in some way, we make this goal that for the next year we're going to do this, I find myself just as dedicated and just as enthusiastic about making excuses of why I can't complete what it is I set out to do. So maybe that's going to the gym. Going to the gym is one of those things that everyone seems to do. So maybe it's like, man, this year, 2023 is my year. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to eat healthy. You know, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go get yoked, swole. I'm going to be shredded. You know, beach season. You're going to be doing like this. You know, that's everyone's expectations. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to eat nothing but vegetables for the next year. And I'm going to look great. And, you know, depending on how committed you are, you know, you may find yourself in a few months. You know, you're a little bit less committed. You find yourself in a few weeks, even less committed a few days. And if you weren't really that determined, a few hours. You know, that year of eating healthy starts to kind of dwindle, and you're like, man, a pizza sounds good right now. Your mouth just starts watering at the thought of having an ice cold Dr. Pepper. You're just like, oh man, water don't taste half as good as the Dr. Pepper does. Or maybe you find yourself on the other end of the spectrum. So maybe it's not, I'm going to the gym. Maybe it's not, I'm gonna be healthier. But maybe it's something different. Maybe you're like, this year, I'm gonna gossip less. And I'm going to judge people a lot less than I used to, because the Lord knows that's what I struggle with. And then as you find yourself getting closer and closer to it, and you see opportunities to pose these judgments on people or talk or gossip about somebody, and you're just like, you're like, I'm going to be good this year. And then all of a sudden, someone walks into your workplace looking all busted and a hot mess and doing some nonsense. And you're just like, you're just biting your lip. I want to say something so bad. I want to talk about this person. And you're like, no, not today. I ain't going to do it. You're just biting your lip. No, Jesus. I take every thought captive in Jesus' name. He has given me the power over my thoughts, and I'm not going to judge anybody, and I'm not going to gossip this year, or I'm biting my tongue. And then all of a sudden they do something, and I thought, just as fast as you thought you was going to be successful, a thought runs across your mind, and you can't help but laugh. You're just like, oh my gosh. 5 minutes later, you're on the phone. You're like, I got to tell my people what just happened. You ain't even going to believe this person walked through the door. New Year's excuses, right, is what we find ourselves in. And as I began to really reflect on 2022 in my life, I found myself making a habit. You know, it wasn't a New Year's resolution. I didn't set out to do what it was that I had accomplished, but it was something that I had hoped for. And I began to to pray and ask God, and you're like, Lord, this is something that's very important, and this is something I need to change. Like, Lord, can you help me? Can you give me the strength and encourage me along the way that I may be successful in making this small, insignificant seeming thing a habit? Help me make this change. And as I go through 2022, I find myself more and more doing that very same thing. And so even though I have mixed emotions with New Year's resolutions, and, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but I'm going to encourage you to add one particular one. Simple, easy, it's not complicated, but if you do, it may be one of the hardest things you've ever done. This small thing can add major significance to your life. It could change so many things, but not only in your life, but in the lives of those around you. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to be extremely hard. It's going to be something that a lot of you may struggle with. And a lot of you just may not want to do it after you give it a try because you find yourself failing more and more at it. Super small, super insignificant thing. I'm going to ask you, starting right now, to the end of the year, end of 2023, for you to be present in every moment this year. Be present. Okay, I don't want you to hear something I didn't say, okay? This is not what I'm asking you, okay? I know I asked you to be present, but I know some of you heard something else, and I don't want to receive pictures, text messages. I don't want to hear stories about you showing up at birthdays, climbing up under the tree next year with a bow on your head, talking about, I'm just being the present, Pastor, doing what you told me to do, being a present. No, don't be a present. Be present. That's something that we struggle with as a society. Nowadays, more than ever, there's so many things that are fighting for our attention. And each and every day, in each and every moment, we are losing significant opportunity. So I want to ask you, be present this year. As we look at the life of Jesus, you can look at any story in the Bible, and it's just this compilation of moments that Jesus finds himself fully engaged in a moment. Fully engaged. At every single situation you can look at in the Bible that talks about Jesus, it talks about how he was fully engaged and fully present in every moment. Being fully engaged in a moment is so powerful that when we look at it and really think about it when it comes to the life of Jesus, it was life or death. So many stories in the Bible that if Jesus wasn't fully engaged and fully present, an entirely different outcome could have taken place. That's right. Preach it. Entirely different outcome. Signs and wonders, all these things that we enjoy reading about when it comes to Jesus, all could have never happened if he had missed an opportunity not to be present. And so instead of sitting up here and reading the entire New Testament about Jesus being present, I decided to pick one story so we're not here all day, so that you can understand a very moment where Jesus was present, and in doing so, a life was changed. And so we're going to pick up in Luke 18:35 through 43. As he drew near to Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. And hearing a crowd go by, he inquired what this meant. They told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. And he cried out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And those who were in front rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus stopped and commanded him to be brought to him. And when he came near, he asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And he said, "Lord, let me recover my sight." And Jesus said to him, "Recover your sight. Your faith has made you well." And immediately he recovered his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise to God. A moment, in a moment, a life was changed in a miraculous way. Can you imagine this scene? Jesus is entering Jericho. Jericho was this huge city. So as Jesus was going through the gates of Jericho, he's walking into, there's a crowd of people around him. Have you ever been in a crowd and tried to understand what is going on? How many of you have been in a crowd and had absolutely no clue what was happening on the outside of the crowd? This is what's taking place at this very moment. There's all these people pushed in around Jesus, and all these people are wanting to talk to him and be close to him and wanting to ask him questions. And then as they walk by, this man begins to shout. He begins to shout, "Have mercy on me." He begins to call out his name. And in the midst of a crowd where Jesus shouldn't have been able to hear anything, he had stopped and commanded that he be brought to him. In life, as we go through situations, we're going to find ourselves in the midst of a situation that we really, really, really need help. And as we begin to finally step out and ask, there's always going to be those people that rebuke you and tell you to stop. In the midst of your tragedy, as you begin to reach out and ask for help, there's going to be those people who tell you not to ask for help. Be quiet, is what they told him. A person so insignificant that the entire crowd walked by, and if Jesus wasn't fully engaged in the moment, he would have went unnoticed. How many of you have ever experienced a time in your life that you have felt so insignificant you have gone unnoticed? I know there's been times in my life that I've felt that way, that I may have been struggling in a season or find myself not knowing what it is to do, and I began to feel unnoticed, insignificant. But Jesus heard this man crying out, and he said, "Come, bring him here, bring him closer." An insignificant man that anyone else would have walked by and went unnoticed. Jesus gave him the most precious thing that anyone could ever give another person. If you can think of anything at all so precious that you can share with someone else, do you know what would it be? It would be two things. It would be your time and your undivided attention. The two most powerful things in life, the two most precious things that you should guard, but ultimately should always be willing to share, is your time and your full attention. And so I'm going to ask you to be fully engaged in this next season. Be present. And I'm talking about in every aspect of life, and I promise you it's going to do a few things. It's going to improve not only the way you feel, because ultimately you're going to feel more accepted, and you're going to have a better community, and you're going to feel like you have friends, and you're going to feel like people want to talk to you. But ultimately what it's going to do is it's going to improve your relationships. It's going to improve your marriage. It's going to improve your relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or the relationship with your friends. By just doing something as simple as being present, being fully engaged in a moment. And I know right now there's a few of you, because I found myself doing the same thing. And you're like, yeah, I'm present. And then, let's bring up a scenario here. Okay, you're fully present, right? Okay, what about when your spouse comes home and they've been working all day and they come and they sit down at the table in front of you and they begin to tell you all about their day and they begin to share all these details with you about the things that they've experienced and the things that happened to them along their way as they've been away from you? What are you doing? Are you on your phone flipping through Reels, watching Instagram, going through TikTok, looking at shorts on YouTube? What are you doing? Is your phone in your hand? Are you looking at it? Because if this is what you're doing, can you really get credit and say that you were fully paying attention? You do that whole thing like, hey, did you hear what I said? You're like, huh? It's like, no, you don't get credit for just being there. Just because you were sitting at the table, don't give you credit for being engaged and listening. Someone's trying to share something with you. That's how you build your relationship. Being intimate through conversation, being fully engaged and aware about the conversation that is taking place. That's how we grow in our community. That's how we better our relationships. Being in a moment, fully engaged, fully paying attention, and actively listening. I know we as husbands get a bad rap for being terrible at this. Oh, yeah. I tell everyone, I'm a great listener, and I am most of the time. But then you catch me in that one moment where you're completely talking to me, and I'm like, yep, and I can completely be in a different place. As I'm staring you in the eye, listening to exactly what it is you're talking to me, I'm somewhere else. You're talking to me, I'm going, I'm listening to what you're saying, but my mind is somewhere else. I'm thinking about the hobby that I just picked up. I'm thinking about the thing I'm thinking about buying. My mind is elsewhere. I'm not fully there. But yeah, I want credit for being present and in the moment and fully engaged as a husband. Like, hey, I was there. I remember what you said. What'd I say? She's like, I told you the other day, because I do this to Erica all the time. And so she'll be like, I'm like, okay, so what are you doing today? And she's like, don't you remember I told you? I'll be asking her, I'm like, what time are you coming home for lunch? And she'll be like, I'm not coming home for lunch. I'm like, what do you mean you're not coming home for lunch? Do you not eating lunch today? And she's like, yeah, I told you I'm going to Tulsa today during lunch. I got a lunch meeting. I'm like, why'd you tell me that? She recalls the exact moment she told me. She's like, don't you remember last week on Tuesday at 7:05, we were sitting at the table. I was feeding Judah. You was sitting there on your phone, and I told you I'm going to Tulsa for lunch on this day for a meeting. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. I was just making sure you remembered that you told me that you was going. I was just making sure you knew what your schedule was. I know you're bad at, being organized and stuff. I was just questioning, making sure you understood. Be fully present in life. Fully present in every situation. Men, we struggle with this a lot, being fully engaged, because unlike women, we don't have the urge to constantly communicate. We don't. Not at all. I could go my entire day and be perfectly fine not communicating with nobody. I'm like some hermit or something, and she's like, what? She's like, don't you talk to people? I'm like, You go through my phone, I got 3 numbers. It's just like, she's like, who have you been talking to all day? You at like 3 o'clock yesterday. And so we as men struggle with this more than women do. So we struggle with being present in the moment with our mind. We can be there physically, but emotionally, intellectually, we're other places. And women struggle with the complete opposite. Like, they're constantly wanting to communicate, But their problem is they're not fully there either because their brain has already moved on. And you're like, I didn't even get to say anything. And they're like, hey, I was there. We communicated. I'm like, no, we didn't. I didn't even get to say anything. I'm like, I didn't get to say that. She's like, we decided. No, we didn't. So you obviously weren't listening because I didn't say anything in that conversation. The entire conversation, I didn't say a thing. And you were just telling me this is what we were going to do. And I guess that's what we're doing. Being fully present in a moment. This is something that I wish for everybody to do this year. I hope you do. I hope you try. But as for me, I don't want to just be fully present for the good moments. I don't want to just be fully present in the moments that are going to bring happiness. I want to be fully engaged in every moment, even in the irritating moments of life. Have you ever found yourself in an irritating moment of life? Be honest. We're supposed to be honest here. You're going to be honest. Have you ever found yourself in an irritating moment in life? You're like, I'm living one right now. I want to be present for those too, because there's going to be a time that I'm going to remember those moments, and it's going to bring joy to my life, even though at that time it wasn't joyful. Maybe I'm the only person that has ever experienced an irritating moment. And for those of you who have never experienced an irritating moment, I'm going to share an irritating moment with you from my own life that had taken place in the past year, because this whole sermon is based off a reflection of my year. It was born off of the reflection of the entire year of 2022. And so I'm going to share an irritating moment that at the time was irritating, but looking back is a memory that I will always cherish. I'll always look back and I'll always think it's funny, and I'll remember it the rest of my life. But even though at the time it was irritating, and if I wasn't fully present and fully engaged, I wouldn't have the memory that I have. Okay, so I'm going to share this memory with you guys, okay? I don't want no judgment. No judgment. Y'all going to promise not to judge me? Oh, I can't even share it with y'all. Y'all don't even... Y'all, all you getting ready right now, I can see it in your eyes. You're getting ready to judge me for what I'm about to say. Okay, as we entered into 2022, Erica and I have finally started our family. And so we began the year with having our firstborn. We were born with an energetic, joyful little boy, and he's the most amazing little boy ever. And so as I start, thank you, Erica. Amen. Praise God. Speak that in Jesus' name. I receive it. That's my word. And so as I begin the story, you have to understand the situation we're in. We've just started a family, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I ain't never been around no baby before. I am the baby of the family. So everybody was watching me do my stuff. I'm like, look at this. And I do stuff like that. And everyone will praise, oh my gosh, you go do amazing things in life. That was me. I wasn't around no baby. I didn't know how to change a diaper. The whole time I was terrified the whole first couple months. I was like, I'm going to break him. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I ain't been around no kids. So I have no clue what I'm doing, right? Okay, so now that you understand context, I'm going to get into this irritating moment of my life. Okay, a few months before Erica's due date, I'm talking to Erica, I'm talking to my beautiful wife, and I just want to throw this out there. Pregnancy brain is a real thing. It's a real thing. I didn't think that was true. I thought she was making it up, but I experienced it firsthand. Yep, sure enough, it's a real thing. It should be in medical books everywhere. Everyone should know this. Just as soon as your wife gets pregnant, they just like send out, like when you were in school and they would send them flyers home to parents. They should have one of those for husbands, and it should be like bright red so we don't forget it. And just say, pregnancy brain's a real thing. She's not gonna remember stuff, or she ain't gonna listen or nothing. Okay. And so, a couple months before Erica's due date, we're talking and we're getting ready for the baby, and I'm nervous, I'm freaking out. This is how much I'm nervous and freaking out. For our insurance, right, we have to go and get a biometrics test. They're gonna take my blood pressure and all this stuff. I had high blood pressure for the first time in my entire life because I was so stressed out about the baby. Like, everyone, they were like, are you okay? Do you need meds? I'm like, no, I'm stressed out, I promise. Like, 3 weeks before my biometric test, I had ran a half marathon. I'm like, I am not unhealthy. This is the first time ever I'm stressed out. And so I began to talk to Erica, and I'm like, okay, we're getting ready for this baby. We need to have everything in place because I like to be prepared. I don't like no surprises. I like to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. I like everything set and it's up, okay? Everything's set up. So I began to ask Erica, I said, hey, the last thing we need is a bassinet. We need a bedside bassinet. And for those of you who don't have kids, it's a little bed that sits next to your bed so the baby sleeps in your room with you, right? And I began to ask Erica, okay, what bassinet are we gonna buy? And she's like, I don't know, I wanna research. There's 1,000 different ones. I wanna know which one I want. I'm like, okay, cool. I let it go. Because a good husband knows you bring it up once, you let it go, and you let it simmer. You don't just keep on it or she get mad. So I'm letting it simmer, right? Come back a week later. Hey, babe, it's getting closer. Did you decide what bassinet you wanted? I said, no, I ain't decided yet. Okay, cool. I let it go. And so as we get closer and closer and closer to the due date, I began to ask more and more and more frequently. And I'm just, hey, you order? No. Hey, you order? No. Hey, bassinet? No. You order? No. And then it's like I blink, and then boom, midnight, I'm at the hospital. I'm signing my life away, telling them that they can repo my kidney if I can't pay for this baby. And she's sitting in this hospital bed, turns over and looks at me and like, we should order that bassinet. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't say anything to that. I had no response. I just stared at her like. And then she hits me with a question. Pregnancy brain is real, right? She's like, do you think it's going to come in time? No, it's not going to come in on time. The baby's here. I'm not exaggerating, guys. I am 100% in my son's life, half and half. I changed half the diapers. I'm up half the time. And so I spent the first half of the first 2 weeks of having a newborn sleep on the floor in the nursery because we ain't had no bassinet. The whole time I had the tracking up on my phone, staring at it, saying, oh, it's gonna move, it's gonna get closer. I kept hitting refresh, like hopefully this sucker says it's gonna arrive sometime soon. And no, I stared at my phone for no reason for 2 weeks, had a sore back because I kept sleeping on the ground because my baby wouldn't sleep. And so we was taking shifts, and I'm like, no, I can't be doing this. Irritating moments. At that moment, I was so irritated. Like, I'm asleep on this ground. This is not feel good. And she's just like exhausted, so she's sleeping fine. I'm over there doing everything I can. I'm stretching in the middle of the night, taking shifts. Like, okay, you get the first 2 hours to sleep. I'm gonna take the next 2 hours of sleep. And so I was on a 2-hour sleep rotation on the floor, and my back was all knotted up. And I was like, no, not today, Satan. Irritating moments. But I'll tell you this, I'll never forget that my entire life. Amen. My entire life, I'll never forget. because I was present in the moment. And instead of choosing to be irritated and letting it stay there, I began to be fully engaged in what was happening around me. I was listening. And so, for the rest of my life, I'll remember that moment of sleeping on the floor for 2 weeks with my back hurting. I'll remember how terrible that was. There's moments consistently happening around us all the time. And so I got a question. Are you still here? Are you still listening? Because statistics say 95% of you have checked out and no longer listen to what I have to say. Yeah. That's my man right there. That's how I talk to my wife. I'm like, huh? Yeah. I don't know about you, but my biggest hurdle when it comes to distraction and being in the moment is my cell phone. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I didn't think it was a real thing until I started experiencing it because I'm so, I guess, addicted to my cell phone. And I'm not even on my cell phone that much, but you get those like phantom vibrations. You're like, my phone went off. And you look at it and you're like, I ain't got no notifications. Ain't nobody love me. Why even think? I'm checking my phone and I'm like, I know I don't text nobody. Why am I even checking my phone like it went off? Or you hear it off in the distance. You're like, oh, my phone rang? You're like, no. Well, your phone been dead 3 days because you don't use it. You talk about did it ring? No, it did not. It's such a distraction, and it's that hurdle you got to climb over. I feel bad for the generation coming up behind me because I was like the first generation to come up with cell phones, but my cell phone, the only thing there was to do was make a phone call, send a text, or play Snake. You know, like, that's only so entertaining watching that little snake go like this. It's like, I look at people, and I'm just like, man, you don't remember how hard it was. Using T9 text messages, I hit that button 28 times to get the right word. And then you're like, oh, crap, I missed it. I got to go back. You just keep pushing it. Phones weren't even smart, but somehow I was addicted to it. I don't understand this. So this next generation got it bad, guys. I'm telling you, y'all need to pray for them. Being in a moment. Being fully devoted to the conversation you're having will impact your relationship with everyone around you. But let me tell you this. This is a small thing that you can apply to your life at this very moment that's not just going to impact your relationships of the people that are physically around you, but it's going to impact your spiritual life as well. So many times God's trying to speak to you. So many moments have been lost because we weren't fully engaged. The Spirit is constantly moving. He's constantly speaking. And He's trying to reach out to His children. But what are we doing? We're distracted playing Snake on our 1983 cell phone. And let's overlook the whole cell phone thing, right? Because that's not our only distraction. That's just our biggest. I don't know about you. A lot of men probably would relate to what I'm about to say. It's not women. But if I'm not distracted by my cell phone or some external excuse for me not to be present, I'm not paying attention because my mind is elsewhere. Because I'm thinking about nonsense. Nonsense. I find myself playing these games in my mind. And each and every one of us may find ourselves here at some point. You're playing these games. The first one, we play this game that we are constantly thinking about. When this happens, then. And so each and every situation that you find yourselves in, you're thinking about where you are, and then you begin to think, well, one day when? One day when? When I turn 18, life is going to change. When I finally get that girlfriend I've been chasing this whole time and she keep telling me no, my life's going to be different. When I finally get married, everything's going to change. I'm going to have a partner in life. Everything's going to be roses. It's just going to be easy. She's going to listen and do everything I say. She's going to keep my house clean. Every time I come home, there's going to be dinner on the table. When I finally get that job, I'm going to be happy. When I finally start to make more money, I'm going to be happy. When my kids finally grow up a little bit, I'm going to be happy. When my kids leave my house, I'm going to be happy. And we begin to play these games. When this happens, this happens. When this happens, when this happens. And then one day you blink and you realize you've wished your entire life away. One day will come, and you'll look back. If you weren't fully present, you weren't fully engaged in a moment, you'll have wished you were. The very things that we wish away at this point in time, right now, are the very things that you're going to wish you were attentive to later on in life. And so we play these games in our mind. I don't know about you, but I like to play the if this happens game. That's like my favorite. That's like my favorite pastime is if this was to happen, you know. Okay. And so my favorite one, this is what I do all the time. All right. What if I wake up tomorrow and I hit the lottery? I wake up tomorrow and I got $1 billion in the bank. What am I going to do? That's my favorite one. I'll stay up all night thinking about the stuff I'd buy, things I'd do, places I'd go, people I'd see. I'm going to throw this out there right now. For those of you praying for some lottery numbers and that Jesus is going to let you hit, I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't going to happen. Not today, because he's going to get me first. I'm just being real, you know, I have to get my numbers first. Y'all take seconds. I'm just playing. I don't play the lottery. I don't have nothing against it. I just don't think I'm that lucky. I've never really won anything like that. And just like, I ain't gonna win. And so we play these scenarios. What if? And that's one of the ones that take up my time the most because I'm a contemplator and I like to be prepared. And so I'm the type of person that if we've had a disagreement or we get in an argument, just know you're going to lose. You're going to lose. We're going to get in an argument, you already lost. The moment you said something back is the moment you lost because I've already argued this argument with you 500 times in my head and I'm prepared for anything you have to say. Right? Like, I'm a contemplator. I'm dangerous. Or you know, you're just like, what if you're like we're about to have this heated argument at work today? Like if Becky come at me sideways, she gonna be straightened out real quick. You know, you're playing these what if games. I know exactly what I'm gonna say to her. If she says this, if she do this, that's what I'm gonna do. Instead of being fully engaged in a moment, we're off in a different place. Just because your body's here in this seat in this church don't mean your mind is here fully absorbing what it is that God has for you. And so why do we ever expect our lives to be different and God to change things and show up miraculously and give us these wonderful things when you're not even present to receive it? We're up here and we come to church and we pray for healing and we ask for a word. God, give me direction. God, anoint me. God, send me out. God, prepare me for the next thing. And then we show up to church and we're not even present. Just like at the beginning, when we don't get credit as husbands for just being there and saying, you don't get credit from God showing up to a building and not being present. You have to be present, fully engaged in every moment, and that's when God moves. God can't get you something you're not fully aware and prepared to receive. If I'm trying to hand you something. It doesn't matter how much you want the thing if you're not paying attention enough to take it from me. I'm just sitting here like this. And as much as I want you to receive what I'm trying to hand you, you're not going to take it. But if I throw it at you, you're going to feel it, and you're probably going to pick it up. I wonder if God ever feels like that sometimes. You know, I'm probably that kid that's too hard-headed to be just like, oh, God, you're going to have to make this one known. He just comes and like side punches me and is like, here you go. If you're trying to receive something from God, a word, direction, healing, whatever may be the case, if you haven't practiced how to be fully engaged in a moment, how do you ever expect to receive it? And so I challenge you in this next season, be fully engaged, be fully aware. I'm going to give each and every one of you an opportunity today to be fully engaged in a moment with Christ. And so, can I have Ashley and Erica come up? This whole sermon, this whole idea, this whole word that God's given me about speaking about the things that I've done over this past year of 2022 of being fully engaged in a moment stemmed from me having my first son, my first kid. I'm fully in 100%. I'm there. From the moment he turned 3 months, he had been with me full time. From then until now. Every second of every day, that boy is in my arms. Every diaper that needs to be changed, I'm changing it. Every time he needs to be fed, I'm feeding him. Every time he's ready to go to sleep, I know it's bad, but I hold that boy. I wrap him up in my arms. I let that fool sleep. Like, Daddy got you. And when I first held my son, and I was praying and I was talking to God about this next season that I was nervous about walking into of fatherhood, not knowing what I was doing with a baby. And I asked him, I said, Lord, help me. I want to be fully invested, fully engaged in every moment. Every moment I want to remember every small detail. From the moment he looks up, from the moment he smiles, from the moment he takes his first step, from the moment he falls for the first time. I want to remember each and every one. I want to be fully present and fully engaged for every moment of his life, because there's going to be a day that I look back and he's no longer small. There's going to be a day that he no longer wants me to give him a hug. There's going to be a day that no longer does he live in my house. And I want to look back and remember that I took every opportunity I had. Every opportunity, every moment, being fully engaged and fully present. And I wonder if that's how God feels about us. He wants to be fully engaged with each and every moment of your life, each and every day, each and every mistake, each and every step, each and every bad decision. God wants to be fully engaged in every moment, but the problem is we're too busy looking around, focused on things that don't matter, that we're not truly there to understand that He is. Each and every moment. I always like to say that God is talking to you every moment of every day. God has something to say to you. The problem is we're not always listening. And so every time I speak to someone and they say, I don't know what to do. I found myself in this situation. What's God saying? It's like, I don't know. I promise you He's saying something.
He's present, fully engaged, waiting for you to pay attention. So each and every day he's trying to speak. Each and every day he has something different to say. And each and every day he's trying to give you direction, nudge you in the right way to keep you from all the terrible things that this world has for you. Just like if I wasn't fully invested and engaged with my son, I wouldn't have memories of him growing up. You're missing moments that God has something to give you, that you may possibly one day look back and say, dang, God, I see what you were trying to do, and I missed it. All because I wasn't willing to be present in a moment. So I challenge you today in each and every aspect of your life, when moments come, give your undivided attention. It doesn't always take long. It's not always strenuous. It takes little to no effort. Be engaged in every relationship, every situation, and give God your full undivided attention every time he's trying to speak to you. He's trying to say something to you right now. At this very moment, God's trying to speak to you. There's something he wants to tell you, some gift he wants to give you, some answered prayer that you've been seeking for. But if you're not fully present, fully engaged, and fully aware, how can you ever expect to receive it? Just like I challenge you to be present this year, I'm going to challenge you one more time. We're going to give you an opportunity to be fully present in the presence of God. I'm not going to say anything. I don't have anything else to say for you. Erica and Ashley are going to lead us in a song and worship. And I want you to be fully engaged in this very moment, to seek God's face, to listen. In our society, so many things are loud and so many things are noisy, and we have to scream and we have to yell to be heard. We don't truly understand what it means to listen anymore. And so I always challenge people when they talk to me and they're saying, I'm looking for God to say something and he's not talking. I need to hear from God and he's not speaking. I always ask him, who's speaking? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, are you talking or are you listening? He's like, I don't understand. I'm like, you're praying, right? And they're like, yeah. Well, that means you're doing the talking. In any conversation, there has to be a moment of pause. There has to be a moment that you become engaged and you begin active listening so you can hear what it is the other party is trying to tell you. And so if you're constantly listening and constantly yelling, how is it that you ever expect to hear? And so I always encourage people, if you're trying to hear from God and you don't know what to do and you've been praying and seeking him and you haven't heard anything, I challenge you to be silent. To close your eyes and only listen. Don't let your mind wander. Don't play mind games. Be fully present, fully aware, and listen to what it is that God's trying to say.
I can be real with you. Say anything and not be afraid. You made me and you like what you made. You made me and you don't make mistakes. I can be real with you. You take me just as I am. You choose me all over again. I am the one you love. I am the one you love. at your table for me. I am the one you love. I am the one you love. I know you're proud of me. Even though I don't deserve it sometimes. No, I'm not a perfect child, but I still make my father smile. I know you're proud